Jess, I was scrolling recently and I saw a post from a woman, business, but she's like present with her kids and she's like healthy and active. And her home looked all put together and like super intentional. And she seemed like, she's pursuing all these things that matter to her. And the caption was something like, you really can have it all. You just have to build it intentionally. And I don't know, it just sort of like something flashed through me that just felt weird.
Like tired?
It seemed like a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I think that sometimes that's the issue with social media is everything always like, it's maybe even how I interpreted it versus what the intention of intentional living was.
Totally.
Because I feel like, I don't like mean to like hate on this person who posted that. I think it was more like maybe that feeling that it triggered in me kind of things.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome back everyone to Chasing Brighter. Today we are blowing up the having it all story, where it came from, why it got a makeover, and what we actually think. I'm Kelly.
And I'm Jessica, and buckle up for this episode because I've got a lot of thoughts and opinions here.
So this phrase has a history.
Having it all. Yeah.
Yes, the phrase of having it all has a history. And based on kind of what research we did or whatever, it really goes back to the 80s. It goes back to this whole theme of where women were leaving the home. They were starting to have their own careers. Think about like Working Girl and a lot of those other movies similar where women had a career. What was the one? Actually, she didn't have a baby, but Baby Boom. Remember? Diane Lane had a baby and she was like a career woman. Anyway, it's about having careers and families and fulfillment simultaneously and being healthy and doing all the things. And, it was really sold as liberation, but really pretty quickly it started to have these like very specific requirements. We sort of filled in this narrative that really nobody can sustain. And I think also it back in the day it was portrayed through movies and TV. But the phrase has kept evolving and it just got, I feel like more recently now, almost like the language has gotten a little softer and now it's more about intentional living and alignment and purpose and balance. And it's kind of meant to sound better.
Yeah.
But we're kind of, sometimes I feel like we still are in the same place. I don't know, Jess.
Honestly, I think having it all is a myth. And I think it's tied to a very specific set of values about what a woman is supposed to want and what a woman should be doing. And it goes back to, we read Shonda Rhimes' book, The Year of Yes. It was one of our book club books, I think from season 1. And Shonda Rhimes talked, and if you're not familiar with her, she is a writer. She is the owner of Shondaland, which is a production company.
Yep.
And she has talked openly about how when she's thriving at work, she feels like she's failing at home and vice versa. But that's not failure, right? That's what one person with a finite amount of time and energy actually looks like. And so for me, like I have put my dreams on pause to support my spouse through medical school. And then I created a new dream where I wanted to be home with my kids. And then I built a practice and then 2 podcasts. And these all didn't happen at one time, where at one time I had it all. They happened in seasons.
Yeah.
And so I think it's not like about having it all simultaneously. I think it's about taking turns of supporting and being supported and allowing yourself to evolve and choose different things depending on where you are in the seasons. And that's not a consolation prize. That is a richer and more honest version of our stories.
Well, and I think it's a great point too, because, life doesn't always go our way. And so it is hard to have it all the time. And so that's the other part of that is just, I really like your kind of honest observation.
Yeah.
Hey, let's do a quick pause. We have a free download for the month of May that goes hand in hand with everything we're talking about in May, especially this episode. It's called the Real Over Perfect Weekly Check-In. It is 5 questions, 5 minutes once a week. And, it's exactly the way that we like to consume things.
Yeah, and it's free when you sign up for our newsletter at chasingbrighter.com/newsletter. And honestly, Kelly, it really is one of my favorite freebies that we've created so far. So go to our website and go get it.
So here's what I keep coming back to on this, Jess, is this whole having it all framework assumes that we all kind of apply how a good life looks like. Everything is blooming all at the same time, and everyone has the same definition of it
Yeah.
in some way, which I don't
I
really
think
feel
for
like.
sure the framework is having it all is for women, and it's that you are fulfilled and thriving at work and you have a partner and kids. I think that's what I think that where that came from. What do you think when people are saying having it all?
I think it is having the everything you want professionally and everything you want personally. Like you
Totally. So
have
that's
no
what's evolved a
want.
little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think you're right about maybe we've experienced that in different seasons.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's not failure. I feel like that's where, even for me, am I failing at one thing versus another when I'm doing well professionally, but struggling personally, or vice versa?
Yeah.
And I feel like, that's how real life works. It's kind of like these different seasons are kind of taking the lead
Yeah.
on different aspects of your life.
And I
Given time.
think, yeah, I also think having all, so first of all, I think it pushes my button because not everybody needs to partner up. Not everyone needs to have children. Not everybody, whatever it is,
100%.
right? And millennials created like what we think of as the gig economy, where maybe you're like in a band and then you do Uber and then you sell bracelets. Like we don't have to just like have a career and die also. So I feel like it's suffocating. And I also think a good life doesn't have to be a simultaneous one. It can be a sequential one. So the pressure to have everything in balance at the same time is like the problem, not your life. Like, your life can actually be full, just not all at once, And so I'm happy, not because everything is perfectly arranged, but because I choose to be. You and I talk about this a lot. Like happiness is a choice rather than this result. That's the real reframe, because you and I talk about all the time, like you just experienced the death of your father-in-law. Like we're experiencing hard things. Things are happening. It's not like just because we're happy, life is easy or everything's wonderful. It's just that we're just choosing that, And that quiet part, saying it out loud, right? I'm happy because I choose to be, not because of my career, not because of my family. And that sentence is worth sitting in for a moment. It removes the achievement from the equation entirely.
I love that. I had this conversation with a couple of parents earlier this week after one of Wes's baseball games, and they were talking about summer travel ball. And apparently a lot of the team have known each other for a very long time. And so they're like people who have joined this year who are new to the club, but not new to the families. So we're going on this big trip, or not big trip, but there's a tournament. And there was a hotel block, and they're like, oh no, we're not staying at the hotel block. We're staying at this other hotel because all of the other teams are going to be there and all of our friends. And like our kids have been playing since they were like 8 years old. And I was like, it just made me feel, I started having this anxiety. Like my son hasn't been playing with them till 8. So they're like this whole group of people and they're all these friends. And how are we going to travel? What if we stay at this block of hotel and he doesn't have any friends with him?
Yeah.
And I kind of spiraled, and I was like, it took me a while where I was like, what am I doing? Who cares? This is silly. There are plenty of kids on the team. It's not everybody. And I don't need to go there. I have this like anxiety about like maybe they seem like they have all these great things going for them.
Oh, like, or when you see like, maybe this is what you're talking about, but it's like, oh, they have this like village of all these friends and they're best friends. They go to each other's houses and like,
yes. Yeah. You put this whole
everyone's all
story
best
behind
friends.
it.
And you're like, I don't have the friends. We're the friends that we are all best friends and we hang out all the time and our kids go to each other's houses. Where's that? Is that like, so it's kind of like triggering as something missing from it all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what? I have that friend group really with like Beckett's soccer team. And I was like, you can't have that with everybody. And guess what? I don't have to be best friends with all the other parents either.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of had to sit with it to be like, why am I even, who cares? Like, I don't
Yeah.
really care. I'm not there to have friends. And if it,
Yeah.
there's plenty of other
Yeah.
things we can be doing. There's this big town of activities too. But it was
Yeah.
sort of like this really weird feeling of like being left out,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
a parent, that I think was just really my own narrative. And it's so funny how we kind of can get pulled back into these, feelings of
Yeah.
not having it all. Again, you're missing something. So,
I think for me, it's the producing, achieving thing will trip me up, So, like, if I see, and not like people I don't know. So, actually, what we're both talking about is how comparison is a thief of joy, right?
yeah.
But it's like if
That's a good
I see
point.
someone, let's say we went to school together, or someone I know that has their practice and they're charging a different rate than I am, or they're doing something, why didn't I think about that? Or if I
Mhm.
see someone, I think I'm creating this narrative that they're more successful than I am, and
Yes.
that will trip
Yes.
me up. But then I'm like, wait a minute, right? I reel it back in. I know you and I have talked so much about how we are choosing being a present parent over a career. And that's where I think it is where having all, like, I personally, Jessica does not believe that Jessica can have this thriving practice. I'm working all the time and blah, 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 and be there for my kids. Like, I have to choose what it is. And in this season of my life, I am choosing and prioritizing my children and my family. And maybe that will change. But for me, what I deem successful and beautiful is just that I can, like, pick my kids up from school and be with them. And so I think you and I, it's like that reframe. So we've been triggered in this comparison, and then the reframe of just choosing to be happy, right?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to talk about it,
Yeah. Yeah.
is that reframe piece.
And this season, we love having a brighter move where we encourage or challenge you to go out and do something based on our theme. So what's your
Yeah.
brighter move,
Yeah.
Cal?
So I would say a time this week, as you're listening to this episode, where you're measuring your life against this invisible, everything standard, this narrative that you've kind of filled in. Just name it to yourself. I'm comparing my life to an everything list right now.
Yeah.
And that awareness, again, this is about just the awareness, right? That awareness is so much more useful than a strategy about how to combat it. Just sort of sit with that and be like, okay, that's what that is.
Yeah. Yeah. My brighter move is asking yourself, what season am I in right now? Not the ideal life, but this season. So what does this season actually call for? And give yourself permission to let that be enough. And if you find yourself waiting to be happy until things are more arranged, try choosing it today instead. One small thing today that's just for you, not earned, just a moment to choose happy. Next week we are closing out May, and we are doing something I've been looking forward to, our Still Figuring It Out segment. Kelly and I are both going to share something real about sliding back into old roles, old patterns, old versions of ourselves that we thought we'd outgrown. And we're going to talk about how we keep moving forward anyway. So we will see you next Thursday.
Yeah, it's going to be a real one. We'll see you there. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to check us out, chasingbrighter.com, on our blog. Sign up for our newsletter there. And don't forget our socials at Chasing Brighter on Instagram and TikTok. Have a great week.
YouTube, all the things. Yes.
Yes.
Have a great week.